Okay, so I told you I was following the instructions on the WagensWest website on how to install this slam bay kit. I'm actually going to skip a few steps here, so it's kind of, I guess, personal preference, but he walks through a few steps on taking it all the way down to the spindles, taking the brakes all the way down to the spindles. I'm going to actually take the whole beam out at the same time. Maybe a good idea, might be a bad idea, I don't know, but I have to tear this beam, the stock beam, all the way apart to build the WagensWest beam eventually anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead into the next step, which is disconnecting the e-brake cable and the shifter, which is pretty simple, so I don't think I'm going to time lapse this one. It's pretty easy, but essentially what we're going to do is we are going to disconnect underneath this rubber mat. Here is the e-brake cable, so we're going to take that down. Should be pretty simple, and then take the shifter out, and which is cool anyway, because I'm going to put the new Hurst shifter in that was gifted to me by a good buddy. Thanks, Mike, appreciate it, bud. So that's the next step. Should be pretty easy, so off we go. Okay, so as expected, that last job went really quite easy. So what I forgot to tell you though is what you'll need. So let me show you. So underneath the brake boot, you need a 10mm box wrench, and you can see the aftermath right there. There's a washer and two 10mm nuts that sit on top of that cable, and you just free it up. I had to use my flathead screwdriver on one side to hold that cable in place while I loosened the nuts, but other than that, super simple, came off really easy. You can let the cables slide through, because one of the next steps is to pull it all the way through the cab. On the shifter, you need a ratchet with a 13mm, and those came right out, no issues there at all. So I'll get my vacuum in here and clean that up, but I'm gonna walk you into my garage here for a second while we look at this. So on the website, the WagensWest instructions, next steps are 6 things that need to be disconnected before you can actually drop the beam. So the first of that is the e-brake cables that have to be pulled through the cab and then through the center of the e-brake, or I'm sorry, through the center of the beam. Then we're going to touch the speedo cable, the clutch cable, the drag link, the master cylinder and brake booster, and then the shift linkage. So I'm going to go through those steps next. Who knows how long it'll take me. I'm kind of taking my sweet time here, kind of hanging out with the kids a little bit and eating lunch and all that stuff. So I'm not really into this for very much time right now at this point. So far so good. So stay tuned. Here we go. A little bit more to follow as we get going. But next step is going to be the e-brake cables, the speedo cable, clutch cable, drag link, master cylinder and brake booster, and the shift linkage. I think after that point, we're ready to start dropping the beam. See you soon. Okay, so I went to go get under this thing and start pulling the cables and everything through, and ran into a problem. Well, not really a problem, just a step I wasn't expecting. So let me show you what it is. So we're going to get underneath the bus, and one of the things that I saw was that I have a, I don't know, it's a rock guard or something in here that covers up most of what I need to get to. We're going to end up pulling these cables and stuff underneath to get through the beam, but I need to be able to see what I'm doing, so that skid plate has to come off. Now it doesn't look, I don't know, it looks like a 10mm nut, bolt, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to pull that off and let me see what I get into. So see what happens here. It should be pretty simple. Doesn't look too corroded, but extra step I wasn't expecting. So there you go. All right. little progress update here. So I've been working on those 6 steps that I laid out before that WagensWest has on their site. Let me pull them up really quick and I'll tell you a little bit about what went right and what went wrong. So the first step was to pull the e-brake cables through. That was the easiest part of everything. So Speedo cable was disconnected. That also, actually, I'll take that back. The Speedo cable was the easiest of all. So going through and pulling those through the beam, it's literally just pull it out and just let it drag down, just so it's not hung up on the beam. That's super easy. The clutch cable I'm about to get to, and that one you've got to actually do from the back of the bus. So you've got to undo the wing nut on the back of the clutch cable at the transmission, and we'll pull it through the long way. So I'm about to hit that piece. The drag link, that was a pain in the ass. So on the drag link, there's a nut that has a I don't know, like a pin, a cotter pin through it on each side of the drag link. There's a 19mm nut on each end. That's the easy part. It's just really hard to get off. Ended up taking a weighted mallet and freeing that. Now you got to be careful with that. Make sure you put the nut on the end of the ball joint there, so you don't screw up the end. I'll show you what we did there, but to get out. But let's see here. So you can see on the end of that nut there's kind of smashed. So I hammered that down. I've actually got a few of these extras, so I have some new ones I can put on there. I didn't want to damage the boot on the ball joint, so I want to be really careful there. And then on the that was the front side that gave me the worst problems, to be honest with you. So the front side was really stuck. The rear was not too bad, so that sits really pretty much underneath the cab of the truck. That one wasn't too bad to come loose, but you have to have them both done in order to get that sucker out and move it. So here is where the shift link connects, and I took a weighted mallet and hammered the shit out of that to get it to finally free itself. Enough vibration finally freed it up to get there. So I was able to get that drag link out without any issue. It just took a while to get to it, and you can see that it's finally free, and I did not do any damage to the drag link. So so far looks a little dirty under here, but not too bad. The last thing I need to pull is the clutch cable, and I think I'm free and I can finally drop that beam out. So brake booster, I don't have one. I have a 69, so I got to skip an entire step. So I don't know what years the brake booster started, but all the steps that went with removing the brake booster and all the master cylinder from the brake booster, skipped it all because I don't have one. So there you go. So next step is to grab a bite to eat for lunch and then pull that clutch cable, and I think we're about ready to drop the beam completely out. We should be good to go. So take care.